Joshua, who was only 18 at the time of his arrest, had been charged once before for attempting to rob a school kid of his cell phone and wallet. To the shock of many paying attention to the case, the rapper was let off with just 150 hours, no jail time for the road rage incident. The judge who presided over the case claims that a kidnapping that had occurred not long before the case was the reason behind why she let him off with just a warning. Apparently, on March 26, 2018, Joshua was kidnapped by another gang of men in their 20s over a drug debt that his friend owed. He was held at gunpoint and forced to sell drugs for them for 10 days until the debt was paid off. She claimed that although the kidnapping was no excuse for violent behavior, it did explain why he was acting in such a reckless and vicious manner. Many local Croydon residents who were following the case were shocked by this verdict and claimed that it was only going to lead to more knife crime in the city. However, Joshua didn't make contact with the victim. He merely caused a frenzy and terrorized the public. The court was not able to bring any evidence of Joshua's gang ties other than his presence in music videos, and therefore, it may have been tough to make the jail time stick. However, that didn't stop the public from going into a frenzy, claiming that the jail time was too lenient and that it sets a bad example for other kids roaming the streets with knives and machetes. But if you thought that was crazy, this next rapper stabbed a man in the heart outside a fast food restaurant, then rapped about it in a song where he mocked him for his meal choice. You don't want to miss this crazy story. Lil M. Dot. Lil M. Dot is a rapper associated with a South London gang and rap crew called A14, a split-off group of a larger gang called the Ghetto Boys that operates in the New Cross, Lewisham, and Deptford area of South London. A14 has gained prominence in the UK drill scene, and Lil M. Dot was one of their most prominent members. But M. Dot's career would be cut short after he was found guilty of causing bodily harm to a victim he stabbed in March 2020. The stabbing occurred outside of After Hours, a fast food restaurant in New Cross, South London. A14 is known to have beef with another local gang called Monson Bloodset. The man that M. Dot attacked was a man named Ahmad Torfi, who was alleged to be a member of the rival gang. However, according to the defense attorneys, Ahmad was not an active gang member, but simply friends with a few members of the crew and was actually a shy, mild-mannered man who worked as a steward at local sporting events. He was out that night getting food with his twin brother and girlfriend when M. Dot caught him off guard and stabbed him multiple times in the chest. He had to undergo open heart surgery because of the attack and is now permanently paralyzed. To make matters worse, M. Dot released a freestyle to YouTube where he brags about the stabbing. He even goes as far as to diss his victim for his meal choice, rapping, "All he wanted was some mac and cheese."
Talking on that, I don't mind it. Should've been dead when you fought for fighting. It was done by me. I put A in the A and B. It was not that deep, because we really wanted was some mac and cheese.
It's pretty cold-blooded to nearly stab someone to death, then make fun of their taste in food. But in the world of drill rap, anything goes. M. Dot was arrested not long after releasing his freestyle and sentenced to 14 years in prison for the crime. Ahmad survived the attack, but is now permanently affected. Although no one deserves to be stabbed in the chest while out grabbing a meal, there is a disagreement online as to how involved Ahmad was in the Monson Bloodset gang. Several media outlets allege that the crime was a case of mistaken identity. However, this clearly isn't the case. Ahmad, who also went by the name Ace, was at least affiliated with the Monsons, as seen in this picture drill fans uncovered on social media. Others have claimed that Ahmad was active on social media and had gotten into beef with rival gang members online in the past. Also, Lil M. Dot claims in court that Ahmad and his brother rushed him when they saw him outside the restaurant and was simply acting in self-defense. Whether Ahmad is entirely innocent or not doesn't really matter because Lil M. Dot still committed the crime and then proved his guilt by rapping about it. But hopefully, this will be a lesson to others that even just hanging with the wrong people or making threats online can get you caught up in serious beef. If you like this video, check out some of our previous videos. From Rappers and Gang,
Let's head to bed, I guess.
drill is a genre unlike any other. While most rappers talk about past crimes they committed in their music, drill rappers often rap about real drama and situations going on in the streets at the time of the recording. Here's a look at a few drill lyrics that really happened. He was dissing on my cousin, now his ass in that wood. Lil Durk is one of the most popular drill rappers to emerge from Chicago when the genre was popping off in the early 2010s. Although his career has been full of ups and downs, Durk has remained consistent with his musical output and he's put more longevity in the industry than almost any other rapper of the genre. Part of what has kept Durk relevant over the years is his ability to collaborate with another up-and-coming talent. he recently collaborated with Memphis rapper Pooh Shiesty on the track Back in Blood, where he references some old Chicago street drama. In the song, he raps, "The ops inside my city, lil' bro put him in the mud. You can't come back to your hood, huh? He was dissing on my cousin, now his ass all in that wood." In this bar, Durk is referencing his dead op, Mubu Crump, who dissed his dead cousin OTF Newski on Instagram Live in 2018. Not long after, Mubu Crump was shot and killed at a house party in Chicago. Durk is a member of the Black Disciples, one of the largest street gangs in Chicago. He's part of a set called OTF, which stands for Only the Family, or also Only Trey Folks. OTF is the name of his record label and brand, however, it also doubles as the set he reps in Chicago. Mubu Crump was a member of the Gangsta Disciples from Dro City and was a part of King Louie's Man Up Band Up, or Mubu, set. Although the OTF and Mubu camps were originally cool with one another, somewhere along the lines, street politics got in the way. Although Durk is probably the most famous OTF member, the set is more of a loose alliance of BDs than a strict hierarchy, and due to petty beef and killings that happened between the two sets, OTF and Dro City started beefing. Mubu Crump was well known for talking shit on the internet and airing out Chicago street beef on IG Live, which many of his enemies didn't like. Mubu Crump was also known for hanging out with a dude named 051 Melly, who was known as the Gravedigger for being one of the deadliest killers in Chirac history. 051 Melly was a member of the 051 Money Gang, which was a set of the Mickey Cobras and Black Peace Stones. Melly was technically a BD, but joined 051 anyway, and had beef with his own gang, which made him a renegade BD. So he was cool with dudes like Mubu Crump and FBG Duck, who were GDs and known enemies of Durk in the OTF camp. The beef between Melly and Durk was personal because Melly has been credited with killing Durk's cousin, OTF Newski, as well as OTF Chino, Durk's childhood friend and manager. The killings were retaliation for the shooting of Lil Mark, a rapper and member of 051 who dissed OTF and other BD sets in a remix of Lil Durk's song, Competition, called No Competition. Lil Mark was killed just 3 days after the track was released, and the killer was believed to be a group of BDs who had ties to Lil Durk and Chief Keef. Durk took to social media to mock Lil Mark at the bus stop where he was killed.
Let me
Not
go
long
into
after, his
creative.
cousin Newski was killed while sitting in his
Try to
vehicle,
fix this
and less than a year
quickly.
later, OTF Chino was killed in a similar way. Both killings have been credited to 051 Melly, so the beef between him and Durk runs deep. Check out our past video on drill lyrics that really happened for more info on this beef. To add insult to injury, Mubu Crump, who was tight with Melly, went on IG Live and said that Newski once threatened to kill him, so he thought it was funny when he got killed. This obviously didn't go over well with the OTF camp, and not long after, both Melly and Crump were shot outside a house party in the 6800 block of South Morgan Street in the Inglewood neighborhood of Chicago. Melly miraculously survived, but Crump did not. It's not entirely clear who the shooter was, but Lil Durk took to social media to celebrate after hearing the news, indicating that he either set up the hit or he's happy that someone took care of the situation on his behalf. So, in the bar on Back in Blood, he's referencing the fact that Mubu Crump dissed his dead cousin Newski and ended up getting killed himself. Melly narrowly escaped the shooting, only to get killed at another house party just a year later. Although OTF was not credited with the hit, it did put an end to one of the deadliest beefs in Chirac history. But Durk isn't the only OTF member who has rapped about dead ops. This next artist rapped about killing a female op who was also one of the most dangerous killers in Chicago. Put a pretty op in a morgue, call that bitch drop dead gorgeous. King Von, War With Us. King Von was one of the most popular up-and-coming drill rappers in the country until he was tragically murdered in Atlanta on November 2020. But before the fame, Von was active in the streets of Chicago and respected for being a rapper who lived the life he talks about in his music. In this bar, Von raps about the killing of his former rival and love interest, Shakira Barnes, aka K.I. K.I. was a female member of the STL EBT set of the Gangsta Disciples that later went by the name Tukaville. Although growing up, K.I. was known as a shy, mild-mannered honor student, she started to get sucked into the gang lifestyle as a teenager and went on to become one of the most notorious shooters in Chirac history. K.I. grew up in the area of the South Side, around 64th and Lawrence, that was the territory of the GDs. Growing up, she was like any other normal girl, but she started to get sucked into the street life as a teenager. She was childhood friends with another St. Lawrence resident named Shondell Gregory, aka Tuka, who was murdered while waiting for a bus in 2011. STL EBT has beef with a set of the BDs, who are now called O-Block. Tuka's death was rumored to be retaliation for another killing of a BD member that had happened 2 years prior. K.I. is rumored to be the one who created O-Block, after killing a 20-year-old BD named O.D. Perry. K.I. was only 14 at the time, and the killing set off a gang war in Chicago that still rages to this day. After that, the BDs in the Parkway Gardens houses started calling themselves O-Block and the STL EBT crew started going by the name Tukaville. Rappers who claim O-Block include Chief Keef and King Von, and Tuka has become one of the most disrespected people in the history of hip-hop. But K.I. didn't stop after the killing of O.D. Perry. She really started to turn up in the street after her cousin, a kid named Tyquan Tyler, was killed in 2012 after getting hit with a stray bullet outside of a party at just 13 years old. After that, she changed her Twitter handle to Tyquan Assassin and started catching more bodies. Over the next few years, K.I. was identified in over 17 shootings in Chicago and rumored to be one of the deadliest Tukaville shooters. Despite being a female, K.I. was one of the most highly respected gangbangers in Chicago at that time and was admired not only by her gang, but even her ops. King Von himself is rumored to have been in a relationship with K.I., although both claimed that these rumors were untrue. In the documentary on K.I.'s life that aired on A&E, Von admits that he had a crush on K.I. and that he tried to get her attention several times on Twitter, but nothing never came of it. Von respected K.I. as a fellow shooter, however, they could never be in a public relationship as they were sworn ops. Von even once claimed that he caught K.I. alone on the train and beat her up and still continued to flirt with her days after. K.I.'s name was so well known in the street that other people in Chicago started hitting her up to perform hits on their behalf. Not long before she was killed, her Twitter was hacked and a bunch of her DMs was leaked by someone on 4chan. There was one in particular exchange where someone offered K.I. money to kill G Herbo. It's not clear whether this was real or a troll, but it shows how well known K.I. was in the city. However, like most Chirac street legends, K.I. ended up falling victim to gun violence. On April 11, 2014, K.I. was walking down Eberhard Ave in Chicago and was shot 9 times in the chest, jaw, and neck. Eerily, the day before she was killed, she tweeted, "In the end, we die," as if she had a sense of what was about to happen. The killer is rumored to be an O-Block member who went by the name Big A, who was in turn killed by K.I.'s brother, G.I. Joe. So in this bar, Von is referencing his dead op and former crush to prove how ruthless his set is, and no matter who the enemy is or what they look like, O-Block is prepared to take care of business. But the war between Tukaville and O-Block didn't end with the killing of K.I. This next artist was killed in broad daylight after releasing a diss track about several fallen members of the BDs. But nigga, T-Roy and OD, them dead bitches. Y'all heard about J-Money? Niggas getting did the same way. I know you heard about Lil Boo. They left his shit by a tire. Bullets was hitting him. He was singing like Mariah. FBG Duck. Dead bitches. FBG Duck was a popular rapper and member of the STL Tukaville set of the GDs. Duck was tragically murdered in August 2020, but before he was killed, he was one of the rising rap stars from the GD camp. Until that point, the music industry has been dominated by BDs, and so Duck was seen by many as the face of the GD movement on the music side. However, Duck built a name for himself by dissing many of his ops, like Durk and King Von, but ended up getting killed after releasing one of the most disrespectful diss tracks in rap history. His song Dead Bitches was released on July 10, 2020, and immediately made waves in Chicago after he dissed and insulted several dead members of the BDs. T-Roy was a member of O-Block who was killed in February 2017 after getting shot on the 2000 block of East 71st Street. He was best friends with King Von and the brother of another prominent BD named HK. OD, of course, refers to O.D. Perry, who was killed by K.I. back in 2011, igniting the Tukaville O-Block War. J-Money was a member of O-Block, an OTF affiliate, who was shot in the head in the West Woodlawn neighborhood in September 2013. But perhaps the most disrespectful bar is about Team 600 member Lil Boo. Lil Boo was murdered in a drive-by shooting back in April 2015. A photograph of the shooting site was released to the public, showing Lil Boo's body slumped over, laying on a curb by a tire. After that, his ops took to calling him Tirehead, including FBG Duck. So in one track, FBG Duck lays out the entire STL O-Block beef in a way that's as disrespectful as possible. This is just a sample of the song, and he goes on to list even more dead ops in the same way. As you can imagine, this diss didn't go over too well with the BDs, and less than a month later, Duck was shot and killed while out shopping. Although most of the violence in Chicago was contained within the South Side, when you dedicate an entire track to disrespecting the dead, all bets are off. Duck got caught lacking in the wealthy shopping district of Chicago called the Gold Coast. Around 4:30 p.m. on August 4th, 2 vehicles pulled up to the area Duck was shopping at, and 4 masked men jumped out. Duck tried to grab his strap, but couldn't react quickly enough and ended up getting shot in the torso and later died from his injuries. Although the investigation is still ongoing, many have speculated that the hit came from someone in O Block. More information will likely be revealed as the investigation continues. The hit was clearly targeted, and because the shooting took place in a well-lit area where security cameras are present, it shouldn't take police too long to track down some leads. The fact that it happened in a wealthy area, and not just on the streets of the South Side, will probably add to their desire to find the suspect. King Von and Lil Durk have been exchanging diss tracks with Duck for years, and many suspected that they had something to do with the killing. However, Von claims that he had nothing to do with the shooting, and that he and Duck squashed their beef right before he was killed. Durk was not quite as chill and released a track called Should've Duck on his new album, which also features Pooh Shiesty, where he dropped the bar, "You come outside without your gun, you dumb as fuck. Ain't no quick run to the store, they pop out, fire you up. I told my P.O. through the gate that I get high as fuck. She asked me how high do I get, I told her high as Duck." This bar prompted an angry response from Duck's mother, who thought the song was in poor taste.
Y'all rich out mentioning my motherfucking son. Y'all rich out mentioning Tuka. Show your craft. Do something else besides this and music. Show motherfuckers that you really go pop. Like my son was trying to do. He was trying to cross over. Yo, sitting up here mentioning somebody who ain't get too about you. He was right. You probably did Illuminati here.
Although Durk and Von had serious beef with Duck, it's unlikely that either would take it upon themselves to do the killing. They're both high-profile artists who could be easily recognized, and therefore, it was more likely that a hitter in O Block still putting in work on the streets was behind the shooting. Although at the time, Von and Durk were awaiting trial for an attempted murder case, so anything is possible. The death of FBG Duck killed the GD's chances of having a music star who could represent them on a national level the way that the OTF and 300 crews rep O Block. Whether another local artist steps up to fill his shoes is yet to be seen. If you like this video, check out some of our previous videos. From Men Who Killed Rappers, Chicago drill goes deeper than just the music. It's a genre that's mixed with the local gang culture, and artists often use the art to diss rivals and talk about what's going on in the streets. Here's a look at a few Chicago drill lyrics that reference real-life events that actually happened. "Goof got shot right up in his top, his brother told on me." In this bar, King Von is referencing his op FBG Wooski and his brother Big Mike. King Von was a member of O Block instead of the Black Disciples. Wooski is a member of STL EBT instead of the Gangster Disciples who had beef with O Block. Despite being the GD, Wooski grew up in O Block, which is known to be a headquarters for the BDs. There was always tension between Wooski and those that rep O Block like Von, but things really heated up in 2011 after Wooski allegedly shot Von's friend Platoon, and Von responded by allegedly killing Wooski's cousin. After that, Wooski and Von started beefing on Twitter. His neighbor attacked him from
The server, I reset the server. Basically, this is my new base. So yeah, I'll show you around. Bedroom, kitchen, dinner table, enchantment table, storage, diamonds, iron, gold, some blocks, some more diamonds, doors, torches, golden apples, enchantment apples, totem of undying, ender pearls, and then some random shit here. Down here I'm building a basement and a mine, pretty much. So yeah. And as you can see, I put fire all around my base, like I was trying to do before. So yeah, but now I actually did it. Shit, didn't mean that. Die. Please tell me I've rider. Flint and steel, please tell me. It's gone creative. Get a flint and steel. Go out. Here. And let's build the ender portal here in my base. So the ender portal, I should in here we are. Going to survival now. Shit. Put this, and this in here, my boy, and then here. Let's have another joint. Let's go into another. Let's take. Can I take it, or will it just disappear? Crap. And the chest. And the chest. Here, and the chest. Here.
Behind, knocking him to the ground and screaming. The senator managed to throw his neighbor off of him. They exchanged some heated words, and the situation de-escalated. However, the senator suffered 5 rib fractures from the attack, which resulted in him requiring medical attention for later contracting pneumonia. U.S. Attorney Josh Minkler told reporters that assaulting a member of Congress is a serious offense. Even though the attack was not politically motivated, the neighbor is going to suffer very exaggerated consequences. After all, he attacked a United States senator. According to NBC News, the neighbor is now facing a prison term of up to 10 years and a fine of up to $250,000. That's a hefty sentence just for tackling somebody. The man is arrested for destroying property, smashing out a car window, and then hitting a woman in the face after breaking into somebody's house in northeast Bexar County. Deputies were called in the middle of the afternoon when someone reported a burglary in progress. The suspected burglar was really just an angry neighbor who had gone next door, banged on the door, and then got angry and started tossing his neighbor's outdoor furniture all over the lawn. He smashed out one of the car windows, and when the deputies finally arrived, the guy freaked out and hit his female neighbor in anger. The police were forced to tase the neighbor and then tackle him to the ground to be subdued. Unfortunately, it's not clear what prompted the man to act so psychotically. We don't know why he was destroying his neighbor's property, or really smacking her around either. So far as we know, the angry man will be charged with burglary and possibly a handful of other charges. Number 5, the offended neighbor. When a man in New Jersey puts mannequins in his yard as part of an Easter display, the people in the neighborhood lost their minds. This is because the mannequins were dressed in skimpy lingerie and equipped with Easter baskets full of eggs. The mannequins all had different wigs on, and they were dressed in very risque outfits, and the neighbors were not having any of it. One woman was so exceptionally offended by the mannequins in their fishnet stockings that she went into her neighbor's property and took the display down. The woman told news reporters at the scene that the display was disgusting and that her 16-year-old son didn't need to see such filth, as if that poor boy hasn't seen worse already scrolling through the internet. But for Wayne Ganji, who put the display up in the first place, it was just supposed to be a funny gag. He never imagined that some of his neighbors would be so offended by his Easter decorations. The woman who decided to take down his display in front of the local news cameras caused about $1,000 in damage. She was subsequently investigated for vandalism, but so far as we know, there haven't been any charges laid. And considering that Wayne had displayed these naughty mannequins previously for Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day, chances are he'll put them back up for the next holiday too, despite what his angry neighbors might think. Number 4, stuffing the exhaust. There's nothing quite as bad as having a neighbor who likes to rev their engine at all hours of the day and night. We've all been there. But when Aaron Robinson purchased a gray Ford Mustang GT, he never meant to become one of those annoying neighbors. It wasn't his fault that his Mustang was loud. Every time Aaron came home or left his house, one of his neighbors got annoyed by all the noise that his new Mustang was making. The neighbor got so upset that they vandalized Aaron's new car. But they didn't just put a note on the car or throw an egg at it, they actually put expanding foam inside of the exhaust pipes. Expanding foam is typically used in drywall construction, and once the foam dries, it's almost impossible to get rid of. Even after Aaron scraped the majority of the foam out of his exhaust pipes, much of it still remained and ended up being melted. The chrome tips of his exhaust pipes are now ruined and they will need to be replaced. Unfortunately for Aaron, he didn't know exactly which neighbor had vandalized his vehicle. They did write a really horrible note giving Aaron an ultimatum that he could either get rid of the noise or pay the consequences. It looked a lot like a death threat, with the letter stating that not even calling the police would keep Aaron safe. Number 3, the neighborhood Karen. Yet another neighborhood Karen was caught on camera destroying a neighborhood car while dual-wielding hammers. This happened in a Los Angeles neighborhood when a local woman decided that she would beat up her neighbor's parked car with a pair of hammers before ordering her to get out of the neighborhood. The owner of the vehicle caught the crazy woman in the act, recorded the incident on her phone, and then called the police. The neighbor then came into her yard and started attacking her garbage bins with the same hammers. She was clearly unstable. According to what the victim told news reporters, the neighbor lady had come out of the house for no reason at all, just to damage the car with her hammers. She was arrested when the police arrived, but released the next day. And this is a classic Karen neighbor nightmare. The woman whose car was damaged was actually the sister of the guy who had moved into the house next to the crazy woman roughly a year previous, and they'd experienced nothing but problems ever since, including racial slurs and now acts of violence. Number 2, baby kidnapper. Police in Florida just arrested a woman named Hannah Braun after she tried to steal her neighbor's children early in the morning. She attempted to break into her neighbor's house and abduct their 9-month-old baby just moments after failing to abduct a 1-year-old boy from a different house. Hannah simply woke up and decided she was going to go on a baby kidnapping spree in her own neighborhood. The police were called at around 2 o'clock in the morning when a horrified mother caught Hannah inside of her home, trying to rip her baby daughter out of the arms of her older daughter, who was terrified and trying to protect the baby. Even more disturbing is the doorbell footage, showing Hannah at the front door trying to get into the house, later released online. Luckily, in this case, the baby was kept completely safe. Hannah Braun had clearly been experiencing some mental issues, with one of the almost victims of her baby kidnapping spree saying that he believed the woman was on drugs. She'd been ranting that she was inside of the house to take the babies and that she needed the babies and that she was going to protect all the babies. Hannah Braun was later discovered to be a nearby neighbor of these people, though none of them had ever had any contact with her before. And here's where things get really crazy, believe it or not. When the police went into her house, they found 2 children under the age of 5 sitting alone. At the time of Hannah's arrest, it was unclear who exactly the children belonged to, and if she had somehow stolen them from other neighbors. Number 1. The snow shoveling massacre. One of the deadliest disputes in neighbor history went down in 2021 in Pennsylvania, when an argument over snow shoveling left 3 neighbors deceased. According to Global News, the feud had been boiling in the neighborhood for a long time, and when in February a winter storm caused huge amounts of snow to fall in Pennsylvania, well, things really heated up. The argument went down at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, when a couple were clearing snow off their parking spots and dumping it on their neighbor's property across the street. Well, the neighbor wasn't very happy about where they were dumping their snow, and an argument broke out. The couple and the neighbor began insulting each other, and then the angry neighbor went inside of his house. It seemed like everything might be over, but instead he came out of his home with a pistol and shot James and Lisa Goy to death before going inside and closing his door. The angry neighbor appeared several minutes later with an automatic rifle and shot them again between 15 and 20 times. At the end of the day, the police were called and the angry neighbor was found dead inside of his house. The neighborhood was in shock. All conflicting parties were deceased, and one unfortunate little boy was transferred into the custody of his grandparents. What's the worst fight you've ever gotten into with your neighbor? Let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit...
The relentless ringing of the alarm clock woke the boy from his deep sleep. He reached out his hand and tried to find the clock. It was 5 a.m. For a few seconds, he just sat there staring at it, wondering why on earth he had set his alarm for so early. But then he felt excitement inside as he remembered what day it was. Today, he was going fishing for the first time with his uncle at the port. He ran downstairs and grabbed a piece of toast before rushing out of the house. The early morning sunshine was surprisingly warm. When he arrived at the port, he saw that his uncle was already beginning to set up the fishing rods. He sat down on the chair next to his uncle and picked up the rod. "Remember, Jason," said his uncle, "don't take your eyes off the float for a single second, or you will lose your fish." Jason sat there, his eyes glued to the bobbing float. Suddenly, the float dipped under the water. A fish had taken the bait. He jerked the fishing rod up in the air, but there was nothing there. "You'll have to be quicker than that," his uncle said. Jason put some more bait on the hook and cast the line again. He was determined not to let the next catch get away. He sat for what seemed like hours, staring at the bobbing float. He was about to give up hope of ever catching anything when the float dipped under the water again. He quickly pulled up the rod. Yes, there was definitely something on the end this time, and it felt really big. He was doing his best to bring the fish in, but it was putting up a huge fight. Suddenly, the float sped across the water at lightning speed. Jason didn't stand a chance. The force pulled him out of his chair and straight into the water. As he went under, he saw something that made his heart go cold. A huge monster was in the water, staring straight at him. All he could see was gigantic, sharp teeth, and they seemed to be getting closer and closer.
YouTube Premium has ad-free videos, so you can watch and learn how to nail the greatest skate tricks without waiting. Try YouTube Premium with 1 month free and skate uninterrupted.
So you won't miss out on any more creepy SCP stories. SCP-1128 is an entity that manifests as a massive aquatic predator to anyone given a full description of the being's appearance through either spoken or written descriptions or visual depictions of the being. Persons infected by SCP-1128 will initially exhibit no abnormal behavior, though some cases show a general aversion to activities involving bodily immersion in water, such as bathing or swimming. Should the subject ever be fully immersed in water, they will disappear completely under the surface of the water, regardless of the water's actual depth. In most cases, subjects will reappear moments later in a panicked state and frantically try to leave the water, while in some other cases, the water will become polluted with blood and debris, confirmed to be the remains of the subject. Subjects that have reappeared intact claim that they were transported to a vast ocean where they are pursued by SCP-1128. Interviews with these individuals carry some risk of further SCP-1128 contamination, as descriptions of the being's appearance trigger further infections. The infection can be treated with Class C amnestics, as it appears memory of the entity or descriptions of it are required for its anomalous properties to take effect. Written descriptions or imagery.
On your feet.
Senior Chief.
Of SCP-1128's appearance, or videos of the entity breaching found outside the Foundation are to be destroyed, and Class C amnestics are to be administered to anyone exposed to such information or showing signs of SCP-1128 contamination. Tests involving D-1732, who had been used for repeated SCP-1128 testing without administration of amnestics, was shown to be able to encounter the entity in bodies of water, normally insufficient for bodily immersion. This effect became more drastic over time, with D-1732 developing progressively stronger hydrophobic tendencies, claiming to see the entity from outside almost any body of water encountered by the subject. A few days after his initial exposure, D-1732 was violently pulled into a glass of water. No remains were recovered from the incident. Staff witnessing the event were found to be infected by SCP-1128 and were treated with Class C amnestics. Containment procedures were then updated to include videos and descriptions of this event, and testing involving extended infection of D-Class was terminated. A written description of the entity's appearance is to be kept at the site for experimental purposes only, and is not to be read by anyone other than D-Class used for testing. If exposed, staff are to report immediately for administration of Class C amnestics. Tracking devices affixed to D-Class used in SCP-1128 experiments reveal that submerged subjects are transported to an ocean, the location of which is only known by senior Foundation personnel. One of these personnel was heard to say, "That's where we've been sending those D-Class? How does a short-range wireless communicator get such a clear signal from that far away?" Mobile Containment Force Kappa-12, otherwise known as Sea Devils, has been assigned to intercept and redirect any and all water traffic that passes through their designated patrol area by any means necessary. Testing with infected D-Class have shown that wireless communication devices function normally when used by submerged subjects affected by SCP-1128. In Experiment Log A-1128A-1, a D-Class subject was instructed to read from a small pamphlet describing SCP-1128's appearance. He was then outfitted with diving gear and lowered into a large tub of water via winch and cable. The subject's gear was outfitted with a wireless communication device to allow contact between himself and the Foundation personnel, and to test if the SCP had any effect on such devices. The following is a transcript of the interview held with the D-Class subject. The interview was conducted by one of the Foundation's highest-level doctors. "Can you hear me? Over," said the doctor. "I hear you, Doc. Damn, this thing is deep. It looks so tiny from the outside," replied D-Class. "How well is your reception? Over." "Good enough, I guess. Kind of fuzzy, but not enough that I can't hear what you're saying." "What is your current status?" "Right now I'm just sinking to the bottom of... Is this the ocean? How the hell did you manage to fit an entire ocean inside a stinking bathtub?" "Irrelevant, D-Class. What are your surroundings?" "I just said ocean, damn it. There's fish and everything. Don't you guys know what the hell's inside your own... Oof." "What happened?" I'm fine. I just hit the bottom. Looks like I've landed on a patch of seaweed or something." "What are your surroundings?" "Seaweed, mostly. Wait a second. It gets thinner to my right. Looks like there might be a drop-off that way. Should I go take a look?" "You may proceed." "Okay." D-Class grunts before continuing. "Damn suit's heavy. It's hard to move in this thing. Hey, is this thing soundproof? I hope my talking isn't scaring off any... Oh my god!" D-Class, respond. "What's your status?" I'm okay. I don't think it saw me. Damn, I think I pissed myself." "What happened? What did you see?" "Scariest damn thing I've ever seen. Some kind of big-ass monster. Wait a second. That's the thing from that stupid booklet you gave me, isn't it?" "Affirmative. Please refrain from describing it any further. What is it doing?" "Nothing right now. It's just swimming along. I think it's got something in its mouth." "Is that a whale?" "Holy crap, it is! It's eating a whale! Oh god, look at those teeth!" The doctor turns to his assistant. "I think we're done here. Pull him out, now." The doctor then speaks again to the D-Class subject. "Thank you for your cooperation. We're bringing you up now. And now he swallowed it. Damn, that's gonna haunt my dreams. Wait, it stopped moving. I think it sees me. Oh God, it's looking right at me. It's headed this way. Oh God, help me. Get him out of there
Let's
now.
have a joint.
The D-class subject becomes hysterical. The Foundation is unable to decipher his gibberish. The personnel activated the winch to bring the D-class subject back to the surface. The winch was retracting at full speed when the cable went taut, wresting the winch from its mounting. The cable then went slack, and water became polluted with blood, which was later confirmed to be that of the D-class subject. No further remains or equipment were recovered. Interview log and relevant documents were edited for vectors, and all staff present were treated with Class C amnestics. In experiment log 11288-2, a D-class subject was exposed to the entity and equipped with scuba gear. He was placed into a standard protective shark cage and lowered into the water. There was no response for a few seconds, but then the line first went taut and then was severed at a point beneath the water. Remains of D-class as well as jagged steel fragments, presumably remnants of the cage, surfaced shortly afterward. In experiment log 11288-3, the D-class subject was once again exposed to the entity and equipped with scuba gear. This time, the cage was treated by the Foundation personnel to increase its durability. The D-class subject was lowered into the water. The result was the same as before. However, this time, no remains surfaced. A few hours after the experiment, MCF Sea Devils reported finding an intact shark cage floating beneath the surface of the patrol area near one of their vessels. An item was retrieved which later was confirmed to match the description of the cage used in experiment 11288-3. The cage was undamaged, but it bore traces of human DNA and feces of an indeterminate origin. No further remains of the D-class were found. In experiment log 11288-4, an exposed D-class subject was equipped with diving gear and armed with a weapon for use against hostile organisms. Unlike previous tests, the subject was also equipped with a live feed video camera attached to his helmet. The video feed shows the weapon was ineffective against SCP-1128, appearing only to enrage the creature rather than harm it considerably or drive it away. Feed was lost when the D-class was devoured. Staff involved were treated with amnestics following transcription of the video feed. In experiment log 11288-5, an exposed D-class subject was equipped with a protective environment suit and a video feed, and was lowered into a vat of milk to test the entity manifestation in liquids other than water. The substance was chosen for its low density, allowing free movement similar to walking in open air. The result was that the D-class subject recovered without incident. The liquid did not trigger SCP-1128's effect. The Foundation's doctor in charge of the testing on the entity gave the following report. Okay, so you might be safe from the thing in liquids other than water, but that probably won't help you much unless you intend to drink and bathe in exotic chemicals for the rest of your life, which probably would get a lot shorter if you tried that. What did you think of the SCP case? Give us your thoughts in the comments below.
Watch videos anywhere, at any time. With YouTube Premium, you can download and go, so you can watch the videos that you love, anywhere, at any time. Upgrade to YouTube Premium. Try 1 month free and watch uninterrupted.
Rebecca switched off her laptop and went to look out the window. She sighed. She had planned to go to the beach that afternoon, but it didn't look like the rain was going to stop anytime soon. She took out her CD collection and searched through it. On a miserable day like this, there was only one thing that would cheer her up. She found her favorite. It was by the artist Tupac Shakur. She put the CD in the player and picked up her headphones. She leaned back in the chair and listened as the familiar words played in her ears. She knew the songs like the back of her hand. As each track played, she began to relax and forgot about the rain. Suddenly, she sat up in shock. It should have been her favorite song playing next, but instead, she heard the voice of Tupac Shakur. It seemed like he was speaking directly to her. If you want to know the truth about Princess Diana's death, look no further. These are the facts. You will find out who her killer is by the end of this track. Welcome back to SCP Exposed. Today we bring you Thaumiel class subject SCP-2137. But before I go on, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on any more SCP stories. SCP-2137 is a single compact disc copy of Me Against the World, a hip-hop album by the artist Tupac Shakur, released in 1995. Physical examination as well as laser testing indicates that the CD was one of the initial releases, manufactured and distributed in 1995. Conventional testing of the disc itself reveals identical results to a non-anomalous copy of the album. The case and liner notes have been determined to have no anomalous qualities, and the physical makeup and encoding of the disc appear completely normal. However, upon playing track 7, normally Heaven in the Game, the listener will encounter an instance of SCP-2137-1. The anomaly takes the form of spontaneously generated, professionally produced songs featuring Tupac Shakur in various styles within the hip-hop genre. Though each instance of SCP-2137-1 generated is unique, they share certain commonalities in terms of subject matter. The central focus of the song invariably addresses a crime, almost always a murder or series of murders, and then gives necessary anecdotal evidence or information to correctly identify and prosecute the killer, even going so far as to specify prosecutors or recommended vigilante justice. Though generation of SCP-2137-1 has been determined to have a definite causal nature, the manner in which the instances are copied onto the disk has yet to be ascertained. When not being used, the disk is to be kept within a typical electronic 10-digit metal safe in the safe wing of Site-23. Initially, all digital and wireless broadcast media had to be kept at least 100 meters away from it. However, it was later determined that due to its anomalous effect having no ranged limit, digital, wireless, and broadcast media may be used, but should be monitored closely for any appearance of SCP-2137-1 or 2. Once a week, 2137 is to be cleaned and all tracks are to be played in succession, with special attention paid to the instance of 2137-1 that replaces track 7. The names, situations, and anecdotes presented in that instance must then be reported to the 2137 Special Committee, otherwise known as PAC-Watch. On the rare occasion that non-Foundation organizations cannot address the situation presented in an instance of SCP-2137-1, O5-9 has given authorization to activate MTF-339, the Suge Knights, to take any and all measures necessary to reach a resolution to the problem. Operational success will be indicated by a new instance of 2137-1. Personnel who wish to examine or attempt to interact with the disk must ask Dr. Kivowitz for authorization beforehand, which will then pend O5 clearance. The primary voice on the songs from herein identified as SCP-2137-2 matches cleanly through advanced audio analysis to that of the real Tupac Shakur, who died in 1996, over a year before the recovery of the disc. However, occasionally, on crimes of a particularly complicated or brutal nature, he will be joined by other performers, either guest rapping or singing the chorus or bridge. This has included many of Tupac's contemporaries, such as Snoop Doggy Dogg,
let's head
No
on the
Doubt,
real
as
world.
well as artists from the 2000s,
Why not?
including Chris Brown, Katy Perry, Lady
There's
Gaga,
only
and
me on
Eminem,
right now
usually
on
at
the
the height of their
server,
popularity.
so I'm
On a few
bored.
notable occasions involving
Why not
long
head
unsolved
on the
crimes
real
by
world?
still
Fuck
active
it.
criminals, there have been guests of a
YOLO.
more blatantly anachronistic nature, standouts among whom include Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, and the Beatles. Heavily anachronistic guests tend to take the role of primary artists, the song performed in their style, with SCP-2137-2 joining as a rap guest. When contacted, none of these artists had any recollection of recording for or information regarding SCP-2137. The crimes themselves share that they are unsolved, or in some cases have escaped detection entirely. The majority of instances of
head on the real world now.
SCP-2137-1 address crimes of